Uh-oh, guess what day it is? Uh-oh, guess what day it is? Guess what day it is? Guess what day it is? Anybody? Anybody? Julie, hey, guess what day it is? Oh, come on, I know you can hear me. Mike. What day is it, Mike? Leslie, guess what today is?
It's hump day.
Hump day, hump day, hump day.
Hey everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of Lifting the Veil with me and my close friend and brother in Christ, Franz. Welcome back, Franz.
Thank you for having me back. It's good to be here.
Always good to have you. Just want you to know that I restarted my computer before the show today, so should be a nice clean run, but who knows how it'll go.
I try to forget the technical difficulties and pretend like it don't happen. You know, I don't want to give that energy power, but
yeah.
I had my daughter at gymnastics today, so I was finishing up, trying to tidy up the show, and then turned it off before I left so I could reboot it when I got home. Do the same thing.
Always good to start on a fresh system. Most of the time I forget, but today I remembered.
Yeah, I wanted to get through. I had a lot of icons up from digging and putting my presentation together.
That'll do it, man.
Yeah. Anyways, all right. So here we are, another week. First of all, I want to say great Bible study, Jay.
Oh, thank you.
I listened to it twice, and then the update. The show you released,
the Super 8 one.
Absolutely, that
Wasn't
was great.
Crazy, man.
Awesome. I know we were chatting a bit in Discord before the night you were uploading it.
Yeah.
But I popped on and grabbed that and listened to it 4 a.m. on the ride to work. So, and I wanted to add too. There's that one clip where he was on the radio trying to get a hold of somebody, and he said "Breaker 19."
Breaker 19, yeah.
Breaker 19. So when I was a little kid, I worked and saved up my money and bought a handheld CB, which is what the kid in that clip was using.
Yeah.
It stands for Citizen Band Radio, and the trucker channel is 19.
Yeah.
And I never thought about it, but it is Breaker 19, Breaker 19, and you would, say break the silence trying to get somebody's attention. When I was a kid, I would hike the mile through the woods to a ledge over I-91 and say Breaker 19.
On 91.
Honestly,
yeah. Yeah.
Wow. So it's those little numerical numbers that, they, you don't have to be in the numerology or believe in it, but the points we try to point out, and Jay stresses a lot in his videos, is that they use it. The dark prince uses it.
Yeah.
So we're only trying to pick up the signs and point them out.
Right. Expose the darkness.
So with that said, I just wanted to add that in there. And if you look up, I think, my CB, Citizens Band Radio, was a Cobra.
Oh, yeah. Like when I stayed with my dad for a while when I was younger in Mass, and everybody had a CB. It was Hicksville, Massachusetts. And, and that was the channel everybody used, was Channel 19. That was that was the most popular channel.
Yep. If you can get a brand new out of the box, you can go Google Citizens Band CB Radio, and it's going to be on Channel 19.
Yeah.
It's the common channel. There are 40 channel CB radios, but I didn't, never really realize that. But okay, so we should probably start sharing before I start going through my slides and talking about what I'm not presenting.
It's always good.
It's
a good place to start,
So, getting here, share. Should be popping up. Okay, so Jay and I were just mentioning before we got on live that, books we read, and happens to be one of the books I'm reading right now. It's Exposing the Expositions, World's Fairs book. And there's a lot out there. But if you're interested in getting started, I suggest or recommend this book. And I recommend it because they put in a lot of their sources and where to go. So, they give their opinion, but then give you so much information you can go on your own, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's always good for people to show their source material so that you can see where
Right.
they're getting this information. Like, a lot of people don't know this, but on Wikipedia, those little numbers at the end of all the sentences where they're saying stuff, like, those are the sources where all this information comes from.
Right. That's exactly how they do it in this book. There's little numbers by words or paragraphs or titles or names, and it can lead you, many, many places.
Yeah.
And I've been wanting to start adding them or do a show on one particular one. And originally I had my heart set on the Columbia Exposition. And I showed some pictures of that in an earlier show, but I didn't go too deep into it. But
That was a while ago, huh?
Yeah, it was a while ago.
Yeah.
I think I was talking about Columbus. Yeah, I was talking about Columbus. And I
Yeah,
was
dude,
showing
that was like a year ago, I think.
I think so. Right. So, and I've also talked about the education system. That was more recent than the Columbus one. But long story short, I want to get into the Philadelphia one. We're going to go to Philadelphia, and reading that book and digging into Philadelphia myself, and I've been a lot lately traveling in the map when I do, as I follow rivers and waterways, keeping in mind the tribe of Dan and them being trailblazers and seafarers.
Yeah.
And the architecture and everything. So long story short, we're going to Philadelphia. I'm going to give you some of the basics about the World's Fair in Philadelphia. It is a topic that can be very difficult to stay on task. It doesn't matter which one, the World's Fairs will take you in many circles, and once you open up one rabbit hole, you're continuing to go and go and go. And so it was a battle to just get the basics. The main point of these expositions is they're a conditioning. It's a conditioning factory, really.
Right, it's like after the resets. Right? They're trying to. They're giving you the new narrative that you're going to live by.
Right. So, and then the last show, I talked about perspective, how our perspective, you think World's Fair that's ushering in new inventions must be light years away from the Civil War. The Civil War was so,
Right.
Muskets and standing in lines and firing, muskets and
Yeah.
yeah. You know what I mean? So here we go. And I'm going to do one big complete circle that's going to tie in the last few of the shows I've been talking about too.
Excellent.
And I'm going to start off with John D. Rockefeller. Okay, so 1872 is an election year, and 1876 is the year of the exposition, and that is as well the election year. And 1872 is the election year of USS Grant. He was in the Civil War, and I think this was his second term. He was reelected in 1872. Also in 1872, it's called the Cleveland Massacre. And this refers to John D. Rockefeller. He's already established the Standard Oil Company. and refers to a 3-month period in 1872 when the Standard Oil Company acquired virtually all its competing oil refineries in Cleveland, Ohio, during a 6-week span in February and March, excuse me, of 1872. Standard Oil acquired 22 of 26 rival refineries at highly discounted rates. So it sounds all fine and dandy, but during this, we're only about four or 5 years after the Civil War. Right, we have maybe the steam engines. We were starting to get a lot more steam engine. So how are we pumping tens of thousands of barrels of oil, and for what? Most of the time, refined oil, if you look it up, is in inner cities had natural gas lines, and their street lights were gas lit.
Oh, the lampposts?
Right.
Yeah.
So there's no explanation of why we have such a huge oil. We don't have cars.
Right. Everything's made out of oil.
Okay.
I saw this. I just want to. Sorry.
Go ahead.
I see these people that they're part of that Stop Oil or whatever, that stupid protesting group, And this guy comes up to him and he goes, "Well, why don't you take all your clothes off then?" He goes, "Because all your clothes are made out of petroleum," he says. And he starts telling them all this stuff that's made out of petroleum. He goes, "You guys don't even know what you're doing." And I was just laughing. I was like, oh, man, how true is that?
Yeah, and people don't realize that the whole medical field is a petroleum-based.
Yeah, the medicines and yeah.
And all your plastics, like your convenient Tupperware to take care of your leftovers from the plastic packages that your food came in the first place, those weren't invented products. That is a polymer that is a byproduct of refining. So, all right. So I just wanted to put that in perspective. Here we are a few years after the Civil War, where a few hundred men were standing in line and running all over the country and fighting with muskets. Okay.
Yeah.
To huge refineries and Rockefeller monopolizing over all of the refineries. Okay, so now let's jump to the next election year. This is 1876, the year of the Chicago's World's Fair. The government was trying to go against the Constitution and get Grant to be able to run for a third term, but he decided he didn't want to do that. Right, so Hayes defeated Tilton. So let's 1876 and it's 6. And this year we're 10 years after the Civil War, right?
Yeah.
Crazy Horse and Sitting Bull killed Colonel Custard in the Battle of Little Bighorn. You may have heard of that.
What's
Custard,
the 36?
That was his age when he got killed by Crazy Horse.
Okay.
So Colonel Custard, who did all this for the Civil War, was only 36 years old. 3 6s.
Yeah, that's what I was asking.
Right?
Yeah.
Right. So there's numbers I throw in here other than years and extra years. Most of the time, go ahead and if it pops out at you, it's a year or something, numbers that popped out to me.
Yeah.
Like I said, this is all conditioning, so these numbers are part of the spell.
Right.
The Great Sioux War of 1876. And I already said that Hayes beat Tilden in the controversial presidential election of 1876. And then 1876, Colorado became a state. And then Alexander Graham Bell presented the telephone. And we're celebrating our centennial, 100-year of the Declaration. So there's some perspectives for you. We have Indian wars. So, the feathers and bow and arrows. But we also have refining oil.
And a telephone.
the telephone.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So the World's Fair, 1876. It's also known as the Centennial Fair or the Centennial International Exposition. Officially, the International Exposition of Arts, Manufacturers, and Products of Soil and Mine. So, right off the bat, the official name is a mouthful and just doesn't make sense. What does arts have to do with manufacturing and soil and mines? Just saying. It was, and technically, it was the first official World's Fair to be held in the United States. And it coincided with the centennial anniversary of the Declaration of Independence, which was signed in Philadelphia on July 4th in 1776. 1776 was also the year the Illuminati was signed in.
Yeah, May. Yeah.
So, are we really celebrating the 100 years of the Declaration?
It's an Illuminati celebration.
Yeah, or are we celebrating Illuminati?
Yeah.
Because they're still conditioning us, right? We're thinking there's, not a lot of tech, not even close to electricity. We're fighting Indians with feathers and bow and arrows, right? But to me, they're wiping out a highly sophisticated civilization that was here and established, and ushering in us.
Yeah. Yeah, I was just thinking, man. An Indian could probably fire like 5 arrows in the time one person could fire a musket ball.
Right, because it takes a lot to load one.
Yeah, you gotta pack it, put the gunpowder, load the ball, pack it down. Yeah. It's a process, and if it's raining, you're bumming. Then you gotta put the flint in, the hammer, and yeah, it's not easy.
It isn't. No, and those flintlocks, the flint only created a spark near a pile of exposed gunpowder.
Yeah.
So you're not really lighting any. It's like a crude cannon in your hand.
Yeah.
But okay, so all right, so now we're going to talk a bit about the buildings. If you have ever looked into any or learned a little bit about even one World's Fair, the architect and these extravagant buildings, it's just a big because they're building these temporary buildings just for a World's Fair to usher in some technologies and manufacturing abilities when they just tear them down or dismantle them. But that's going to be my main purpose, is just mainly focusing on I'd say dysfunctions of this narrative. So the main exposition building, alternately main hall, was the world's largest building at the time. So it's a temporary building, but it's the world's largest building at that time, measuring 1,880 feet.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, it's more than a third of a mile long, and it's 464 feet in width.
Yeah.
So, some more numbers. International products related to mining, metallurgy, manufacturing, education, and science. That number 5 wasn't supposed to be in there. Ignore it.
Okay.
Memorial Hall. Memorial Hall housed the Centennial Art Gallery, which displayed 3,256 paintings and drawings, 627 works of sculptures, 431 works of applied art, and nearly 3,000 groups of photographs from 20 nations.
Boy, they're really trying to lay that narrative down.
Hard, I mean, so Colorado just became a state. They're still fighting Indians with bow and arrows, but we have 3,256 paintings and 3,000 groups of photographs. And we're only 10 years after the Civil War, where there's small handful of photographs.
Yeah. Yeah, and the population was pretty small.
Kind of small, yeah. I mean,
just killed ourselves off pretty bad.
To me, the Civil War was just destroying evidences under the guise of freeing the slaves and fighting each other for it, and then ushering in a new blanket, a new cover-up.
I was just informed I was frozen, so I'm gonna fix my cam while you're going.
All right. I got some more here. So the plans for this exposition were drawn up and started officially being discussed in 1866, roughly towards the very end of the Civil War. It was awarded and granted permission in 1870. Bills passed and groundbreaking in 1871. So these buildings, the groundbreaking ceremony was in 1871. All the buildings and everything was completed and opened in May 10th, 1876. And it was only active for 6 months, in November 10th, 1876. And we had 10 million visitors.
Oh, wow, look at that place.
This is one of the main halls. There's a machinery hall, but this is the main hall. 3 years they built this. And every other building around it.
Do you believe that? Yeah, and they're like, this is just a temporary building. It's like, dude, that's a work of art, bro. Like, look at all the antiquitech. You see all the antennas, the energy collectors. Yeah. Pulling in the ether.
And where and who manufactured the glass for this one building alone?
Yeah, and all those little round domes, that's high tech.
It is high tech. And 10 million people in 6 months came here, right? We have 3,000 pictures on display of just random stuff, but we got one person around this building.
Yeah.
Here's a different view of it. This is the main hall. Now you're starting to see on this the Roman Greco, the Greek, the Roman architecture, the pillars, right? We got obelisks with goddesses, personifications on it. Up here you have angels on these ones. They're hard to see, and it's really hard to get close-up pictures of these things. I recommend you looking into these buildings yourself and seeing what I mean when I say it's difficult to focus on. If you tried to focus on this one building and collect as much information, you just get led in so many different ways, and none of it makes sense. So here's the machinery hall. This is the 1,880 feet.
Dude, look at that, huh?
That's a lot of glass and I'm gonna more hack it the harder I try.
I'm with you, brother.
But you can't. This is the most people you'll see too.
Yeah, and that's just like a
there
painting.
We go. See, I tried.
Yeah.
The most people that you'll see here, other than them telling you millions of people. So the inventions exhibited, including a typewriter by Remington Company, a telephone by A.G. Bell. These are the inventions that were just invented and introduced at this at the quadruplex telegraph by T.A. Edison, as well as agriculture and heavy industrial machinery.
Can you do me a favor? Can you go
Yes,
back
sir.
to the last picture?
One more.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. I was just. All right, go forward again. So see those rings? It looked like there was a third ring on the left there. In the grass.
Is.
That's why I wanted to go see the other one. Here it looks like 3, but in the other picture it only looks like 2.
It kind of looks like a waterway here too.
Yeah, like I was wondering, I was like looking for the ring symbolism, like, you know, like Oddfellows, the 3-ring circus kind of thing going.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, absolutely. See, and I was figuring the figure 8 or the little G.
Yeah.
Like a little cursive G. But I did put that in there with that in my mind. It did seem like symbolism to me.
Yeah, I'm sure
but
it
you can
is.
find other illustrations of the same building. They had their own railroad for this machinery.
Also temporary.
Which was also right, because technically if you look up the steam engines in downtown Philadelphia, there was an inner city law where steam engines only get so far downtown, and this was about where it was really difficult for me to stay on task and just present what I wanted to because it just kept coming up with more that doesn't make sense either. So
yeah, no, when you dive into the World's Fair, that's like there's no telling where you'll end up.
No. So we're gonna, they got some pictures. You can't get an actual beautiful picture as beautiful as the drawing of the machinery building, but we get some pretty clear pictures of tech and machinery in here. And I can't tell you what this is, but it looks like it's a small model of portion of the building. It says it's a spool cotton and a Geo Clark sales agent. I can't tell you. But down here it has George A. Clark, and it says a sole agent. I can't tell you what it does, but it sounds like it's some type of agent.
It looks like it's spooling something. I don't know, thread. Kind of looks like there's like little bobbins of thread in there. You know?
See that at the bottom, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can get that, and it does say it's a sole agency. So, which would be contradicting with its sewing machine. The sewing machine was a big deal here in this fair, and then here's parts of inside of it with all this other machinery, and we still don't have electrical power all over the place, right? But we have a chandelier here.
Dude, right where your arrow's at right now, that machine right to the left of it. Yeah, that.
Yep.
That looks like a generator, bro.
Doesn't it?
And if you go up one, right there, that's a big engine. Yeah.
That's an engine, like a V8 engine exposed here.
Yeah, dude.
Right.
A big old
Keep
diesel
going.
engine, probably for like a submarine or something.
Mm-hmm.
Boat.
Yeah. So there's tech in here that doesn't make sense to what they're telling you. It's the importance of this picture. And all this temporary building, the inside of this looks like some high-tech steel.
Yeah, and if you're going to build a temporary building, why would you make such an exquisite roof? Right? I mean, just make it flat.
Right?
Why go through all the trouble of curving everything and putting all this glass in there? And doesn't make any sense. None
at all. So with that in mind of what we just, try to pick out of those machineries, this is the big to do for a machine in the machinery hall. Presidents came and visited, all the names that visited the fair came and saw this engine. It's by means of shafts and underground tunnels. This 45-foot tall coreless engine supplied steam power to operate some 800 machines. So this one coreless engine powered all 800 machines in the machinery building.
That's crazy.
And it's temporary, mind you, but they built underground tunnels and shafts for this thing to fit in and be operated by all these people you don't see in this picture.
Right.
Again, this looks like a diesel engine.
Yeah.
This is some high-tech technology that isn't run by belts from one steam engine. So here's the horticulture hall. Again, it's very similar to the main hall. And then this is the first first piece of the Statue of Liberty that showed up. This is they're putting on display, and in this little tent, I don't know if you can see it, but there's two people standing up here.
Yeah.
All right, this is the first piece of Statue of Liberty that arrived here, but the rest didn't come for a few years later.
So that's like the Standard Oil logo.
Thank you. Yes, it is. The torch is the Standard Oil logo. And
right, but the Bible says to set up a standard. And here they're showing you Lucifer's torch, the light bearer, calling the oil company standard. Right? Set up a standard. That's crazy.
Absolutely. Thank you.
That's crazy.
And this is Memorial Hall. This is the layout. It's kind of hard to see, but so
wow.
Here is the Machinery Hall and Agriculture Hall, Memorial Hall, and then the rest of the buildings. There's some like a hotel, and here's your railway right here. That's your normal railroad. Some of it still exists, and this is Fairmount Park, and on the other side of the river is heading towards downtown Philadelphia. See the Rotary, and then the straightaway and Rotary, straight and Rotary.
That place is huge.
That'll all.
It's a big complex.
Absolutely. Oh, I think it was. I meant to put it in there. It's like 14,400 hectare.
Dang.
Can't remember the exact number. And this is Memorial Hall, the only existing building.
The other ones don't exist.
None of them, they never existed. It's just, but we do have one that still stands today. And it's a hands-on please touch museum in Philadelphia.
Oh, wow.
And here's the front of it.
What are those, horses? Wings? Winged horses?
Yep, horses with wings, winged horses. Yep. And then goddesses up here.
Of course. Wow. Whoa.
Yeah, so this is where if you look in archives, you can see people's reports of I went to the fair, or I saw the president near the tower, and people in like diaries or archives talking about a tower, and they'll straight out say the Centennial Tower was just in plans, and this is the company, Clark Reeves Company, and this is their drawing of what, because they were going to provide and build more steel buildings.
They're providing 5G.
Isn't that funny?
Yeah.
So
right next to the pyramids.
That it's so vague, but this Clark Reeves and Company had the means to get steel architect steel and build steel, but for what? They don't say other than it's a centennial tower. It was just going to be the tallest tower, and they give you a narrative. But if you look up, and I didn't want to put it in. I couldn't put it in this show, but it gets in the airships, and then that's a whole new ballpark.
Oh, when they park at them or whatever?
That's how they park at them. So this was going to, yes. So it was just to say, hey, look how awesome we are at building tall towers 1,000 feet tall with steel, and then we'll leave it here for airship dock, right?
Yeah.
So what I'm thinking is the tower actually existed. It was built by Clark Reeves and Company, and it was more of antiquity, free energy.
Yeah.
There was electricity.
Right. Look, yeah, it looks like it harnesses just ether harness.
Right, and the grounds were, electrified and powered by stuff like this. There could have been more than one. Again, they throw it under the bus. They sweep it under the carpet, and they tell you it didn't happen. It never did. It was just an idea.
Yeah.
All right. So when I Google. I could highlight Clark Reeves and Company and Google that. Another rabbit hole, but it was uninteresting because this whole electricity thing. They're actually called Phoenix, the Phoenix Iron Company. So if you try to look up that company, it'll automatically bring you to Phoenix Iron Company, and it was located in Phoenixville, Pennsylvania. It was a manufacturer of iron and related products during the 19th and 20th century. Phoenix Iron Company was a major producer of cannons for the Union Army during the American Civil War.
Rising from the ashes.
Right? So there was so much about this, right? It's because Phoenix sticks out for me, and I'll show you why. I've talked about Phoenix and the whole pH, right? So the success of the Phoenix, they created it's called the Phoenix column. It's a special steel column, and they built it. All right. So they invented this special column that makes it. It talks about how it's subsidiary named Clark Reeves and Company, later renamed the Phoenixville Bridge Works. So it was a Phoenix Iron Company and then renamed the Phoenix Bridge Works, Bridge Company, and it's all out of Phoenixville. So they were making iron ore, and they were figuring out how to make it a heat-treated alloy and make columns. So to me, that's telling me at this time they were providing the steel because they're right across the river. They're a few miles away. They're not too far from the fairgrounds where the World's Fair was. But so then after they were rejected and didn't build this tower, they started building bridges. They renamed after the Phoenix Bridge Company. They have built some 4,200 bridges and railway bridges. They built the Manhattan Suspension Bridge, Walnut Street Bridge in Harrisburg, a bridge in the Trenton, New Jersey, Morris, Pennsylvania, even as far away as Chile, Russia, and China in the 1900s, early up to 1900. And then in 1900s, they went to Quebec. And then this is a list of all the other bridges they had involved. So that's some pretty high tech ironwork, bridge building company.
Yeah, I was gonna tell you, I find it very interesting that the Phoenix kept going down and rising into this new company, and then it built bridges in Russia and China to the United States. You know what I'm saying? Like, these are the two countries that are going to invade us. And,
right.
And here is this Phoenix building bridges in these companies. It's almost like you see this like spiritual bridge being built from them to us.
Exactly. I mean,
That's
and what else
crazy.
was you were talking about another bridge not too far away from Pennsylvania going into Canada.
Oh yeah, the Rainbow Bridge.
So it's to me symbolically all the same, and these
Yeah.
bridges are all over, right? And this one stuck out to me. It's called the Mill City Oregon Railroad Bridge. Now a pedestrian bridge, a Phoenix column bridge, which again, they used their special Phoenix columns, and it was manufactured in 1888.
There
Then
you
this
go.
Oregon Railroad Bridge, now a footbridge, they moved what they started and moved it to San Jose, California in 1919.
Of course it did. Yeah.
Okay, so how many bridges do we pass over that still use the Phoenix column? Right. So Greek, ponoki, which probably meant griffin, thought it might have meant palm tree, right? So there, right off the bat, Phoenix is confused. Two completely different things. It's either a bird or a palm tree.
Yeah.
That word is probably a borrowing from West Semitic word for madder, a red dye made from ruba tincturium. Anyways, the word Phoenician appears to be from the same root, meaning those who work with red dyes. So Phoenix may mean the Phoenician bird. So purple was considered red back then because they didn't really have a distinct red dye. Right? It's reddish purple, purplish red. And that coincides with Phoenicians. Phoenicians as in seafarers.
It's the pineal gland.
So
Oh yeah,
I
that's one of
found,
those. Looks like there's another one in the background too.
yeah, that this one here is more of like the office building built tower. But this is an actual picture taken from a balloon in 1893. And this is the fairgrounds where that fair took place a little less than 20 years ago. And this tower still exists.
The one that they didn't build.
The one that they didn't build.
Yeah.
But if you look up in the airship's archives, they were docking here at this. That was left here after the Centennial Fair that they didn't build.
Right. Makes sense.
Lots. See. Okay.
If only I could paint houses I didn't paint.
I know, right?
Like, I could make so much money. No.
All right. So this is a modern, obviously, map of Fairmount Park. And I got a yellow arrow here pointing to where Fairmount Park is. And then the Please Touch Museum, which was the Memorial Hall.
Yeah.
So this whole section is where I showed you that drawing, is where the fair took place. But it did go across the river and up this way. Even though they'll lead you believe that it didn't.
Yeah.
And I'll show you why. Because right across the river is this tunnel and bridge. So this tunnel, they tell you, was bored out, right? Roughly the same time, or a little earlier, pretty much during the Civil War and after. But yet we have this huge stone into steel Phoenix Bridge. And we spent all this man hours and times to bore through this corner of a mountain here for these horse and buggies to go through.
This whole picture just seems to contradict itself.
Everything, right? You see the electrical pole?
Yeah. You got an electrical pole. You got horse and buggies. Some bored out tunnel.
Horse and buggies,
Yeah.
right? And here's the light post. But wait, watch this tree, okay? We're going to go through a series of pictures because you can get a lot of these pictures. But if I type in like description of this to try to get where is it now, it won't give it to you. You literally have to go into Google Maps and try to find it. And I'll show you. We'll go into Google Maps. So here it is in construction stage. Some years way before.
Yeah.
Let's go back. You see how we got nice grass, and there's obviously lots of track marks here. There's a lady sitting down at a bus stop and the light. But this tree.
Yeah.
This is just freshly getting bored out. But here's an actual picture that looks older. Right? This is Fairmount Park, the East River Drive. You got your steam engine.
Yeah. Still got the bus stop sign.
Still got the bus stop sign, right? The tree is still there.
Got a nice walkway.
Here's the tree still. Now we have a paved sidewalk and a paved road with cars.
Yeah.
Back to the construction. This was just finishing construction. That tree. Now we've gone from horse and buggies to cars, but this little tree, it's growing out of the rock. Here's construction of it.
Well, the tree was really little then.
Yeah, you're not completely bored all the way through, but that tree is still there.
Yeah.
Here we're looking, now we're under the arch, the stone part, looking back through. The tree's a little bit bigger up here.
I feel like that bridge probably was like rock, like made a block all the way across before, and they took it out and made it steel, right?
I want to say so too, and I want to say that their first attempt was this, what's left of this rock.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, because it seems so out of place. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
absolutely,
that steel just doesn't look right there.
No, it doesn't. And even when you go back to pictures of depictions, like drawings or paintings, it's still the same.
Wait, now you have this huge building with horse and buggy.
Now this, yes, okay.
Wait a
that's
minute.
that's the beginning of waterworks, right? So now we're trying to figure out how to supply water to downtown. So now we have to build a waterworks department, and that's the waterworks building. There was no in between.
That's crazy.
So you tell me, just by these pictures, you make sense of that. And this is just across the river. So if you're standing here in front of this waterworks building where these horse and buggies are, just come out of this tunnel, and you look across the river, you're looking at the World's Fair.
Yeah.
So who was an architect that had to do with that building I just showed you, and designs of many buildings in Philadelphia that exist, and the World's Fair? His name is Frank Furness. He was born November 12th, 1839, and he lived to June 27th, 27,
Yeah.
1912.
And his name's Frank Furness. That's FF. That's 66 right there.
Mm-hmm. Right? And he died at 72 years old on the 27th.
There you go. See?
Yeah. And he served in the Civil War as the 6th Pennsylvania Cavalry. So he rode horses off into the Civil War and then came back and was the architect of all the 600 buildings. He designed more than 600 buildings. So there's all your 666 with this guy alone. He's your spell for you. All right.
Yeah, I mean, you got June of 1912, so 12, that's 66, plus your June the 6th, you get your 19. He died on the 27th at 72. That's crazy. His initials are FF.
Yep.
Like, yeah. These signs are everywhere for us to pick up, man.
Absolutely. And it's just, that's all this, no matter how much I dug. And every time I started getting into this, I would spend an hour going away from my target, basically. And all the information I did find was very worthy of putting in here. Just the same type of 27 to 72 FF. It's the same type of spellcasting numerology.
And his unit was the 6th Pennsylvania Cavalry.
Pennsylvania Cavalry, absolutely. Yeah. So,
man.
So instead of going through and giving you a rough of 600 designs and buildings, lots of them, not all 600, but a lot of them still exist in Philadelphia. But what did stand out with the World's Fair, and he helped design the stations for the railroad that went into Fairmount Park, and he helped design the Waterworks building. But this one is the Broad Street Station. Right? That one stuck out to me, and that's the one I wanted to stick with. The Broad Street Station was opened December 5th, 1881. A 5-story Victorian Gothic head house facing City Hall.
Can you just picture horse and buggies hauling all these big stones in and stuff?
That's what I mean. This is huge.
Yeah, that's
huge.
A castle,
and it
man.
Wasn't, right? And this is for the train station. Here's looking back. Go back here. You can see this section here.
Yeah.
Far section from this. It was almost like a time period added on to this existing castle, right?
Yeah.
Now we're all the way at the other end looking back. And what we see here is we can't really see the castle part. Maybe right here. That's Town Hall.
Yeah.
And some live steam engines. And right up the way is the 30th station. And this is designed where that building was. Not too long after that whole building was demolished in the early 1900s and built in the style of the 30th Street Station.
That's so sad they destroy those old buildings, man.
Yeah. Yeah, not too long after. I mean, 1881, yeah, that's a spell number and a spell year. But if it was demolished and rebuilt in 1907 or whenever it was into this, that's not very long. Why go through all that?
That's what I'm saying. None of this stuff makes sense. They build these buildings. They say they build them in 2 years or less. And then they destroy them 30 years later. It's then why'd you build it? That's not a temporary building, okay? A tent is temporary,
And now the narrative, and I could have gone a whole nother route on this one too, but you see these tracks that are coming into this station, right?
Yeah.
This was called it's an not an aqueduct. What's another word where they actually? It's a high-rise wall. They called it the Chinese Wall, and there's only remnants of it. But it went from 30th all the way downtown, and they raised up 200 buildings because they put in this huge. It's an elevated train, basically.
Yeah.
Which doesn't make sense. Okay, I just skipped to a bunch. So that guy who designed the original in 1881, FF. Right, he commissioned this sculpture here, and we have bowls. Right, you can't see it, but it looks like a hand under drape holding up that torch.
Yeah.
horses.
4 of them.
Right. And now we have this a personification of a woman again. She shows up a lot in many statues, Statue of Liberty, and all these little children. So you got your 4 horsemen. Right.
That must be
This-
Artemis in the thing.
That's what I would say. So here's another look at it. This is literally popping out of the wall at you. It was like he built the wall and then carved into it. And you're right. It does look like Artemis right here.
Yeah, well, Apollo, with the 4 horsemen, but Artemis is Apollo's alter ego, his female persona.
There you go. Up here. Yep.
Yeah, so I'd say that would be her. It makes sense. Well, that's crazy,
Okay.
man.
Right. So this was originally in that first train station I showed you. And it's entitled The Spirit of Transportation.
Of course it is, dude.
This panel, the conception and work of Carl Bitter, sculptor, was executed in 1895 and placed in waiting room of Broad Street Station, Philadelphia, from which place it was removed to this site in January 1933. The Spirit of Transportation is represented in triumphal procession of progress led by a little child carrying a model of an airship, a prophetic vision of a mode of transportation to come.
Oh, my goodness.
In a train station.
Yeah.
And then we tore it down and built another one and then transported it there and put it up there.
Something
So
to do with
after
these spells, man.
Right? So I did spend an hour digging in the airships and trying to portray that. So I was like, no, don't do that. It's going to that'd be a whole different show, stay on, point on target. And then it came back, airships. And I'm like, why? Why would you talk about, So let's go back. Do we see a little boy? Where is this little boy playing with an airship? Oh, over here. Right here, this little tiny baby. You wouldn't be able to tell. He's supposed yeah. He's playing with an airship. And that's our transportation to come.
That was prophetic art.
So here he is. Here's Carl Bitter. Right? He's at the Pan Am. Huh. That's funny.
Yeah.
Which would be another World's Fair, right?
Yeah, Pan. Right.
Right. Thank you.
The old what do they call him? The old vegetation god or something they call them.
So Carl Theodore Francis Bitter.
That's quite a name, dude.
I know, right? He's a Pan Am director of sculpture. He was born in 1867 and died in 1915. He was born in Vienna, Austria. He studied Vienna Academy of Fine Arts. Vienna, to me, if I searched and going about the way I like to go through maps as the tribe of Dan, it's a Phoenician city. All right. So he came to the United States in 1889. He found work as an architect firm. And he had, in 1915, he had an accident. He was struck and killed by a car in New York City.
Yikes.
The guy who was going to, he created this to usher in balloon flight to be displayed at the train station, and then he got killed by a car.
They sacrificed him so they could make a balloon.
Yes, he did. So he is Bitter envisioned a profession of stationery and fountains decorations on the grounds, illustrating alleged the progress of man in the concept, not only supported by extension the principal theme of exposition to celebrate achievements in civilization during 100 years of development in the Western Hemisphere. So he was creating stuff for the World's Fairs. and train stations and whoever would want to hire him, right? So then, in this page, looking at him, here's another little picture, a sculpture that's done in the same likings of the one at the train station. So that struck me funny. We got some naked children in here. It looks like,
I was just gonna say, like, did they not have clothes back then?
they,
Like, why are
so
all
I'm like,
these
what's up with this
sculptures
guy?
of like naked people?
Nakedness, right? So,
I don't get it.
so I dug into this one, right? It's in the great room at the Charles W. Goodyear house. The address is 888
Yeah.
Delaware Avenue in Buffalo, New York.
Yeah, that makes good sense.
Yeah, so yeah, there's more numerology. So here it is blown up. You got the goat and all these naked little kids.
Playing with
Around the
goats. Did you know that's
Playing
what baby goats are called? Kids.
Yeah. So, yeah, are we sacrificing them to the goat?
Most likely.
Mm-hmm. And Mr. Goodyear, and I found that funny because Goodyear is another a billionaire who made tons of money off of the Industrial Revolution. Yeah, these cars needed some type of rubber from somewhere, right? We're having all this byproduct from petroleum.
Yeah.
So, and 888. So I'm thinking, all right, the spirit of transportation, the goddess of transportation, a god of transportation. Well, there's a Roman god of travel. He's Mercury. He's the god of travels and trade. And here he is with the goat, naked just like those little boys, and he has the caduceus.
Yeah. His little rooster.
Hermes.
His winged hat, right? And his feet.
Yep. Yeah, he was wearing it. Yep. So his equivalent is Hermes. He's a jack of all trades. In Greek mythology, he is the patron god of travel, sports, invention, art, literature, and trade. Everything that was at and in the official title of the Philadelphia World's Fair. He's also the son of Zeus. He was a cunning trickster and moved easily between divine and mortal worlds. Here you can see him wearing his traveler's cap.
Yeah, that would be Loki. Hey, remember Nintendo's Kid Icarus?
Yeah, we were talking about that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was him. And who was it that flew too close to the sun?
Oh, what was it? You had to ask.
Yeah, these same god, different names.
It is the
Yeah.
same god, and it was. I'll have to look it up, and I'll feel like an idiot as soon as I read it. I'm sure.
Yeah, I'll look it up while you're talking.
All right. Well, I'm about rounding down anyway, so then I'm going to do a big circle back to where I started from. Right.
Oh, it is Icarus. Okay.
It is Icarus.
Yeah,
Yeah, Icarus flew too close to something.
that's what I
funny.
thought. Okay.
All right. So in Greco-Roman Egypt, Jeb was equated with the Greek Titan Kronos. Right, who I've talked about before is Greeks and Titans are from the tribe of Dan.
Yeah.
Kronos is the grandfather of Hermes. Jeb was the Egyptian god of the earth and the mythological member of the Enhead of Heliopolis. He could also be considered the father of snakes.
Yeah. The old serpent
Oh.
god.
Right? So GB is his name. I thought GB, Jeb, sounds familiar. I talked about something else, and I hit me like a ton of bricks. What I opened up with is how I can circle it back around because I've talked exactly about the General Education Board.
Oh, yeah.
GED.
There
Right?
you
Was
go,
it
dude. The serpent.
Right? Or Boris.
Yeah.
Biting its tail. The General Education Board was a private organization which was used primarily to support higher education and medical schools in the United States. On January 15th, 1902, the board was created by John D. Rockefeller in his townhouse in Manhattan, and he threw in the first $1 million, which equivalent today would be 33,823,100 in 2022.
Wow.
Right?
That's crazy.
So now, while I'm going back like an Ouroboros, in 1911, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that Standard Oil Trust to be dissolved under the Sherman Antitrust Act and split it into 34 different oil companies because he was monopolizing and they weren't having it no more.
Right.
1911.
Yep. I find that's a pretty popular handgun too, by the way.
The 1911?
Yeah, I just find these things so interesting,
Yep. Yep. So in 1911, so here we are. So he's already starting to invest and create the Jeb, the god of education, because he thinks of himself as the god of education, because now he has all this petroleum, and you're going to dismantle his monopoly on petroleum and the cost of barrels per barrel. So now we're going to split up all that major company into littler companies. But now he's just going to start investing all his money into medical field, because why are we all under petroleum-based medicine?
Yeah.
See, we're on a big circle.
Yeah, and Apollo is the god of all that stuff.
And the caduceus, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I got a little bit of bonus here. We found a few other things that I felt like couldn't be in that circle, but are related to it. So that was pretty much an hour. So we got some time. We're going to do this.
We like bonuses.
Here's a crazy little circle that's going to contradict, some more contradictory. And look at this building. This is a temporary building. This is over in the East Fairmont, where I was showing you where that tunnel and bridge was, right?
Yeah.
Because they built all these temporary hotels because 10 million people came. So there's places, restaurants, right? They credit this fair and these restaurants with fair food, because there's a guy who started Fry Foods. There's a whole nother show and chapter of the restaurants of this World's Fair. But this one stuck out to me. This one is beautiful. It's beautiful, temporary. They carefully dismantled this building and then brought it to Massachusetts. This was a restaurant. This is the restaurant.
That's just a restaurant?
They claim this is just a restaurant, but yet they dismantled it, brought all the pieces to Massachusetts, and made a hotel out of it.
Yeah, I was going to say, it looks like a hotel.
Right? So, the end of the Great American Restaurant. That's what this was called, the Great American Restaurant. Right here. All right? So, after the exposition closed at the end of 1877, this restaurant stayed still in business till 1877. The building that once housed the Great American Restaurant was bundled up and carted away to become a Hotel Wellesley in Needham, Massachusetts. Run as a hygienic village by William and Emerson Baker, a kind of East Coast John Harvey Kellogg, if you know anything about the Kellogg house. And the hygienic village for Kellogg, just basically testing and torturing, right?
All right, yeah.
Who ran the hotel as a treatment to public health and wholesome food, so you can go learn about your health and what good foods to eat. It's intended to be a healthy getaway for New England's rich and famous. But it never made money, and then it just burned down.
Of course it did.
It never really made money. So this poor sap had this building shipped over there, and he made a hotel out of it. Didn't make money, and it burned down in 1891.
I gotta tell you, we had an epidemic of stone buildings burning to the ground back in the 1800s.
Isn't it crazy? You know, and it's like, so that's the other funny thing about the Civil War is how many stone buildings and destruction there was from cannonballs and muskets. But again, that's another. So I looked into this William E. Baker, right? So how did he get so much money to just throw into restaurants at this money pit of a World's Fair? Well, he got his riches from a sewing machine. But wait, his patent number, 7,931, issued on February 11th, 1851, of a sewing machine, when the whole narrative at the beginning of the World's Fair
Right.
was the sewing machine. It was a different company and a little bit different, but they throw it out there like the telephone and the typewriter and the sewing machine.
Right.
Yeah, so this guy, William O. Grover and William E. Baker of Roxbury, Massachusetts, made millions and retired before the World's Fair came around from a sewing machine.
Very interesting.
But 1851, when they signed for this patent, wasn't that just slightly before the Civil War? Huh.
Yeah, it was definitely before the World Fair. Like 20, 30 years, right?
Yeah, so this genius who created the small sewing machine and made millions of dollars wanted to have his money in a restaurant during the World's Fair and then make it a hotel in Massachusetts.
And then it burned down. Poor guy.
And it burned down. Right.
Oh,
So
man.
then when I was digging into the old Chinese wall and tracing it from City Hall and that train station, I found Pennsylvania Route 3. It's a 24.3 state highway located in southern portions of Pennsylvania. The route runs from US 322 in Westchester to East Pennsylvania 611 in Philadelphia.
Of course it does, dude.
So it goes right by Phoenixville, where the Phoenix rises from the ashes and builds all the bridges and didn't build that tower, and goes right by King of Prussia, which is a town in
What?
between.
That's crazy.
And was I talking about the Prussian education system?
Yeah.
Yes.
That's why I was looking at that King of Prussia. I'm like, wait, what?
What? Exactly. So here we are, all this big circle, with Rockefeller investing in JEB, the General Education Board,
Right.
because he still has petroleum, but he doesn't control the bear. And we are modeled after New England. All at this point of this World's Fair, all of New England's under the Prussian education system.
Yeah.
King of Prussia. But you know what's in King of Prussia?
I don't. I didn't even
This
know there
art.
was a town called King of Prussia.
I didn't either. No. How funny is that?
Valley Forge.
This is the monument to Valley Forge. The Battle of Valley Forge.
Look at that thing.
Yeah. And these arches, these monuments, are all over the place in random small towns. And your eclipse that passes through these towns with the same name,
Yeah.
some of them have these arches.
Dude, I wonder if those are like, I don't know. You know, it's like, why
Is it a
build
portal?
these things? What are they like? Did they used to be like teleporters where you just walk through and come out somewhere else?
They have to be because they're in the middle of nowhere. They're more extravagant than most of the buildings around them. There's one in Franklin, New Hampshire, that's the same size as this.
Really, I'm gonna go see that.
You look it up. Yeah, it blew my mind. We just happened to be going through Franklin, and I'm like, I had to go back through and circle around this thing. It's about as big as this. But yeah,
That's just crazy, man.
yeah, more architecture of
Like there had to be a reason they built it. You know what I mean? I know we didn't build it, but there had to be
No,
a
exactly.
reason the people
this is a
before
monument
us.
to Valley Forge, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, no, that doesn't make sense.
Like we find it, and then we put this little walkway around it, and go, yeah, it was built, in
Yeah,
18,
in memory of
35 or whatever. Yeah.
of all the soldiers in Valley Forge.
Yeah. Yeah, they're like, let's just get a lift and
And
we'll
they
put some
all
words up
there.
at the top of it. That's crazy.
So I'm gonna exit out of that. So here's the actual picture here. So Fairmount Park. This is where the World's Fair was,
Yeah.
right? And this Please Touch Museum
What a
is
creepy name for a museum.
Memorial
dude.
Hall.
Please
Isn't it?
touch.
You bring your
Please
kids there to go.
touch. Yeah,
learn
yeah.
stuff.
It's like,
Please touch.
what the heck, man? Get out of here.
Right. So then, while I was looking around here, I find you got to look under Glending Rock Garden to find that tunnel.
Okay.
Because they don't tell you anymore. And then there's some old walkway and some of the stone foundation. Here's some of the stone bridge.
Oh,
There's the arch.
Yeah.
I clicked on it, but it's not loading. Okay. Oh, no, it is. Patience.
Yeah, we got stormy weather, so your internet's probably slow out there.
Yeah, it's been raining. So that's not the picture I wanted, but yeah, so you can go to this little park. So there's some of the original stone arch. Right?
Yeah, see? So it was a bridge. And they're like, oh,
It
well,
was.
let's just make it metal now. We'll pretend we built it.
And here's that arch.
Yeah.
And if you type in, like, try to describe this and look where it is, it won't give it to you. It'll give you something else and start giving you information about the Chinese wall. And from here, this really stuck out to me because the layout of the circles in the grounds fair, the roundabouts and the straightaway, they modeled that and copied that whole neighborhood I brought you to. So this is the Fairmount Water Works. Right? This is that building near the tunnel.
Yeah.
This was designed and started to build in 1812, and they finished in 1875. This is the aqueduct. This is where they're getting their water supply for downtown.
Dude, doesn't that not look right to you, though? Like, doesn't
Do you
that
see
look
it?
like
You saw that too in the last picture.
they were buildings?
So it's
and
like
then
this
they
was
just,
already existing.
Yeah.
Built on top of the again. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
even the bottom looks like it used to be, where they live, but now it's
Used to
flooded.
be art.
Yeah, it's like that.
Right.
If you look down at the end on the right there's that one little triangle building. You can see it's like the top of a building. It's like, dude, those
It
are
looks like it. And then the water's up to it like it's like some arch for it.
Yeah. That's
Yep.
crazy, man.
Look at that. So they spent from 1812 to 1875, and then it was out of commission in 1907.
That's like
So not only did that stick out to me, right? So let's circle around it. X out of that. Let me give you a Google Maps tour I was looking at and how I traced all this information into a circle. Because all of Philadelphia, all of this information is a circle. Okay, so I'm gonna stop here, go back to 3D. Okay, I'm gonna zoom out. So the waterworks is the edge of the fair. The fair was over here on the right, and across the river into here.
Yeah.
And it's one straight shot to downtown. Oh, I backed out too far. I'm sorry. Right. So waterworks is here, roundabout straight away. Got all this Roman architect all the way down. I don't like it. Got the Museum of Art, the Art Museum steps. It's called the Oval. It goes straight up to the Franklin Institute, the Cathedral Basilica of St. Peter and Paul, museums, right? All this Roman Greco architecture.
There's definitely an obelisk in that circle, man.
And it brings you right up. There is. There's more than one obelisk along this.
You freeze up. Oh, I think you froze up, buddy.
This route I'm taking you. In that original station.
Yeah, you froze up for a little bit there. Just FYI.
All right. Well, I was pretty much just trying to show you on the map about the neighborhood I was in.
Yeah. No, that building's crazy looking. It's like New Jack City building.
The right in the middle of the center of that is a compass.
Oh, yeah, I found one of those in New York, man. I still gotta put a video together just showing you all the old buildings I went and took pictures of. I was just like driving back here from Indianapolis, and I stopped in this town, and this guy was like, I was asking him, I could see these two, like...
Oh, yeah, you were telling... Yeah.
I could see these two
He said,
Catholic
like old
spires.
architects.
Yeah, and he's like, you gotta go downtown and check this stuff out, man. He's like, you won't believe the buildings down there. I was like, all right. So, yeah, went down there. Wow, that's crazy, man.
So this building was existing during the World's Fair, and then that original Broad Park or Broad train station that was directly across the street. And this is in the center where that compass is.
Oh, okay, I got you.
This is old world.
Yeah.
So
Look
here's
at
the view of
that,
it from
man.
down that street.
Wow.
That's just the town hall.
That's like amazing architecture. See, like that's from a supernatural time period where
I believe so.
There
I mean,
was
look
like-
at all that.
yeah, that's like Nephilim structure, man.
Mm-hmm. I mean, look at the door.
Yeah.
Compared to this
oh,
SUV.
yeah, all those buildings I saw, dude, they were all made for giants. Every single one of them. You see this giant doorway, and then it's all filled in with like this tiny little door. Like, yeah, come on.
Right? Yeah, absolutely. There is so much of that. New York, Boston, Philadelphia, and quarter of a mile away from this building is the Eastern State Penitentiary. You ever seen anything about that?
Yeah.
That's a whole nother episode too, but yeah, so that was the neighborhood we just explored. And that neighborhood always sticks out to me. Because you have all this grid, right? And old world tech, and it's like a snake pointing right at it.
Yeah.
All right, cooperate with me. But, all right, so that was my show. That was my presentation. Thank you for tuning in and staying tuned in. And I hope I sparked a few interests. Maybe you'll go look it up if you decide to. It's called Exposing the Expositions, and it's by Howdy Mikowski. Good book.
Yeah, no, this was cool, man. I like how you tied all the stuff together, and then especially how you wrapped in the Egyptian god with the education system. It's like people don't see these things. They're hard to see until someone points it out to you, and then you're like, oh, geez, is it really that evil? It's like, yeah, man, it's wickedness.
Yes, it is. Yeah, yep, absolutely. So, again, I appreciate everybody. I appreciate all the love and support you give to the channel. Jay puts in a lot of dedication, and he allows me to, put together little slides like this from the crazy head of mine. So, much love to him for that. And I like to give a shout out to Ronald Layton. You just joined the channel. You commented on the video before. I'm glad you found us, and I'm glad you find us interesting.
He's actually been on here for a while. He's been watching our show for a long time.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I actually he sent a really long comment today, which was impressive. I sent it over to Discord in a private message, so definitely check that out if you haven't.
I will. I'll zoom over there and check that out. I just wanted to, give love and appreciation to the people that found the channel and then find some information and find some truth.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're here to just report what we find and try to get you to see it from a different angle or the way we see it. Doesn't mean it's absolutely correct in the way it is. No, but we're just reporting it, and we're trying to do it with the love and grace of God.
Yeah.
Because there was the love and grace of God that brought Jay and I together, and then it was the love and grace of God that kept us together. So, it's good to see you. There's people giving Jay and the channel the love.
Yeah, true.
With all that said, thank you very much, Jay. Thank you, everybody out there. Until next time, stay vigilant, and God bless.
God bless you, brother. Love you, man. All right, guys, that's Franz's presentation. Thank you, Rich. Thank you, Adam, Ronald, Jay Wed. Thank you all for joining us, and all the people who aren't in the comment section. Yeah, as Franz said, we do appreciate all your support, you guys. Channel's pulling in some really awesome people lately, and see a lot of people in the comment section of the videos. Really encouraging, and so it's really nice to have you guys here. I appreciate all the comments, suggestions, interpretations, because I'm just one guy. You guys see stuff that I don't see sometimes, and so, you guys give me different aspects, different angles, stuff you're looking at. And all that stuff helps, We're here to help each other. Iron sharpens iron. So, keep up the good work. Thanks for your support. Please share the channel and, share Franz's videos out, because we want to get the word out. We want to expose this darkness. This is the time when the Lord is exposing darkness and using us to do it. So let's do it. So until next time, you guys, I'll be on live Saturday night, and I think that's probably will be the next show. I won't have another video out for a little while, but I do have an Easter video coming. So that one you might want to share with all of the blind people that you know. So until next Saturday night, you guys, and next Wednesday with Franz, God bless and take care.